Think about this for a second. You're lying in bed at night. Your body is tired. Your eyes are heavy. But your mind just won't stop. One thought turns into another, then another. Then suddenly, you're replaying a conversation from 3 years ago, or worrying about something that hasn't even happened yet. And no matter how hard you try, you just can't switch it off. If this feels familiar, you're not alone. There are people who don't just think, they overthink constantly. Their minds don't rest. They analyze everything. They question everything. They feel everything deeply. But here's the real question. Why do some people have minds that just won't slow down? It starts with a brain that never learned to feel safe. For many people, overthinking doesn't start as a habit. It starts as a survival mechanism somewhere in their life. They learned that being alert, being careful, being prepared for everything was the only way to stay safe. Maybe they grew up in an environment where things were unpredictable, where moods changed quickly, where they had to constantly read between the lines. So their brain adapted. It became hyper-aware, always scanning, always analyzing, because for them, thinking wasn't just thinking, it was protection, the fear of getting it wrong. Another reason people can't stop thinking is this deep, quiet fear. What if I make the wrong decision? So they replay every possibility, every outcome, every scenario. They imagine what could go wrong, what people might say, what they might regret, and the more they think, the more trapped they feel. Because instead of finding answers, they find more questions. Overthinking creates an illusion of control. It feels like you're solving something, but in reality, you're just going in circles. Emotional depth comes with the coast. People who think too much are often the same people who feel too much. They notice small changes in tone, tiny shifts in behavior, the things most people ignore. And because they feel deeply, they think deeply too. They replay conversations. Did I say something wrong? Why did they respond like that? Do they actually care about me? Their mind doesn't just process events. It reconstructs them again and again, trying to find meaning, trying to find certainty. But sometimes there is no clear answer. The loop you can't escape. Here's where it gets dangerous. Overthinking isn't just thinking more. It's thinking in loops. You start with one simple thought. I hope everything goes well tomorrow. But then it grows. What if it doesn't? What if I mess up? What if people judge me? What if this changes everything? And before you realize it, your mind has created a whole disaster that hasn't even happened. This is how overthinking traps people, not in reality, but in possibilities. The need for control at its core. Overthinking is often about one thing: control. People who overthink want to predict everything, prepare for everything, avoid every possible mistake, because uncertainty feels unbearable. So their mind tries to solve life in advance. But life doesn't work like that. No matter how much you think, you can't control everything. And that's what makes it exhausting. Intelligence and overthinking injuries. People who overthink are often highly intelligent. They can see patterns others miss. They can analyze deeply. They can imagine multiple outcomes at once. But this ability becomes a double-edged sword, because the same mind that can create brilliant ideas can also create endless worries. It's not that their brain is broken. It's that it's overactive. Why it gets worse at night. Have you ever noticed overthinking feels stronger at night? That's not random. During the day, your mind is distracted. There's noise. There are people. There are tasks. But at night, everything slows down. And suddenly, your thoughts get louder. There's nothing to distract you anymore. So your mind takes center stage. And for someone who overthinks, that silence can feel overwhelming. Your mind thinks it's helping you. Here's the most important part. Your brain doesn't think it's hurting you. It thinks it's helping you. Every what if, every scenario, every replay is your mind trying to protect you from pain, trying to prevent mistakes, trying to keep you safe. But in doing so, it creates a new kind of problem. It doesn't give you peace. It takes it away. But there's something even deeper going on. Overthinking isn't just about fear or intelligence or control. There's something deeper beneath it, something most people don't even realize. Because sometimes people don't overthink because they want answers. They overthink because they don't trust themselves, and that changes everything. There's something deeper going on beneath all that thinking, something most people never notice. Because overthinking is not really about thoughts. It's about trust. The real problem: you don't trust yourself. Think about it. People who don't overthink still face the same decisions, the same uncertainties, the same risks, but they move on faster. Why? Because they trust themselves to handle whatever happens next. But overthinkers, they don't trust their choices. They don't trust their feelings. And most of all, They don't trust that they'll be okay if things go wrong. So instead of deciding, they keep thinking. Instead of moving forward, they stay stuck, not because they're weak, but because they're trying to avoid pain before it even happens. The fear of regretone. Of the biggest reasons people can't stop thinking is the fear of regret. That painful feeling of looking back and thinking, I should have done something different. So they try to predict the future perfectly. They tried to choose the best possible option. But here's the truth no one tells you. There is no perfect decision. Every path comes with some level of uncertainty, some level of risk, some level of regret, and the more you try to avoid regret, the more trapped you become in your own mind. Why overthinking never actually solves anything. Overthinking feels productive. It feels like you're working through something, like you're getting closer to clarity. But in reality, you're not moving forward. You're just revisiting the same thoughts from different angles, again and again. Overthinking doesn't lead to better decisions. It leads to mental exhaustion. Because clarity doesn't come from endless thinking. It comes from action. The hidden cost of living in your head. When you're constantly thinking, you're not fully living. You're not present in conversations. You're not enjoying moments. You're not experiencing life as it happens. Because your mind is always somewhere else. In the past, in the future, in imagined scenarios. And slowly, without realizing it, life starts to feel distant. Like you're watching it instead of living it. You can't think your way into peace. Here's something most overthinkers struggle to accept. You can't solve overthinking by thinking more. You can't analyze your way into peace. You can't figure out every feeling, because peace doesn't come from control. It comes from letting go. And that's terrifying for someone who's used to controlling everything in their mind. What actually helps? So if thinking more doesn't work, what does? It starts with something simple, but not easy. 1. Interrupt the loop. Overthinking runs on momentum. The longer you stay in it, the stronger it becomes. So the first step is to break the pattern, not by solving the thought, but by stepping away from it. Go for a walk, change your environment, do something physical, because you can't think your way out of a loop while you're still inside it. 2. Accept uncertainty. This is the hardest part. Overthinkers want guarantees, but life doesn't give guarantees. So instead of trying to eliminate uncertainty, you learn to tolerate it. You remind yourself, I don't need to know everything right now, because sometimes not knowing is part of living. 3. Trust yourself more than your thoughts. Not every thought deserves your attention. Not every what if is important. And not every fear is a warning. Sometimes it's just noise. So instead of believing every thought, you start questioning them. Is this helpful? Is this real? Or is this just my mind trying to protect me? And slowly, you begin to separate yourself from the noise. 4. Take imperfect action. This is where everything changes. Instead of waiting for the perfect answer, you act with the information you have, even if it's not perfect, even if it's uncomfortable. Because action breaks overthinking. It shifts you from analysis to experience. And experience teaches you more than thinking ever will. The moment things start to change, there comes a point when you realize something powerful. Your thoughts are not in control. You are. You can let them pass. You can ignore them. You can choose not to engage. And in that moment, the noise starts to quiet down. Not completely, not instantly, but enough for you to finally breathe. A different way to see it. What if your overthinking isn't a flaw? What if it's just a mind that learned to protect you too well? A mind that doesn't know when to stop, because no one ever taught it how. And maybe, instead of fighting it, you start guiding it. Final thought. People who can't stop thinking are not broken. They are aware, they are sensitive, they are deep, but they are also tired. Tired of the noise, tired of the loops, tired of living inside their own heads. And the way out is not to silence your mind completely. It's to realize you don't have to listen to every thought that passes through it. Because peace doesn't come from having no thoughts. It comes from not being controlled by them.